On the last episode of Goose Thinks He's a Game Dev, I produced a biodegradable embodiment of depression and what I like to call chronic dumb. This is how my parents describe me, but in this case we're actually talking about my game. However, you can't take a game to therapy, so color me purple and call me Harold, cause this game is gonna need a delusional child with a crackhead's imagination if it wants a chance in hell to even scratch the surface of the word cool. First, let's take our square landing point texture and change it to a less confusing shape for all the gamers that played Run 2 on the school computers instead of paying attention in middle school geometry. Previously I mentioned that I thought the flippy floppy ragdoll physics on the player made for some fun times, but ended up having to drop that in the recycling bin. I said I wouldn't cry about it, but call me an emotionally repressed victim of toxic masculinity, because I definitely did. And yes, I need help, but it's time to animate the player. This proved to be a pretty difficult task because of an existing f*** I managed when I used a rigid body on my player while changing its transform position using code. This seems a little odd, but let me break it down for the elderly folks who can't even find the power button on their computer. Our boys transform and rigid body are in a sort of a love triangle with the player. However, both are major chads and want to be the dominant one in the relationship, so they like to fight. Our boy Rigid Body has a dirty little kink. Don't worry, just keep following me. Which is that he likes rigid body forces and physics to manipulate position and that alone. While our boy Transform's dirty little kink is also my kink, manipulation by code. Either component wants to compromise or take their kink off the table, which is the heart of this unnecessary analogy. Now introduce animation to the love triangle and it's like introducing Transform's sister. Not only does this make things more complicated, but it also crosses the line with incest. Never thought my life would come down to me comparing Unity components to fuck up love triangles, so moving on, all of this is implying that animating the player really screwed things up in my game. I kept trying to change things with my rigid body settings and code, but the only leaning the player seemed to be doing was leaning into another dimension. So I stopped trying to animate my player and went back to the concept of a free-moving rigid body. This time I had to constrain the player just enough to stop it from acting like a confused Chinese lantern, while also letting it move freely enough to not defy the laws of physics and get the fun motion I wanted. And lo and behold, we've now gone from this to this. Now that our player is looking like a Beyblade on LSD, we can focus on some of the ideas I had with particles. I added in a particle system on the player, so every time the player grabs a piece of recycling, there's a burst of golden recycling icons. Also did a little trail that runs behind the player with more recycling icons just for funsies, and now we have the most environmentally friendly particle system meet and greet I've ever seen. Tweaked the wheel trails on the player to be a little more thick, and that was the end of polishing player-related things. Right now, all the cars are red, but I think I've seen at least 2 cars in my lifetime that are like, not red. So let's randomize the car colors a bit. I generated a random integer, put it through a switch statement, and that would decide the color of the car. You might ask why I didn't just generate RGB values randomly, but I found in the past that the colors can get messy when done that way. Using a switch statement let me limit the options to the colors of my community, my game, so tuck me in and read me Goodnight Moon, cause we have colors. My next idea was to add a form of trash that could randomly be thrown with a recyclable that would also need to be avoided. So I assessed different kinds of trash and landed on arguably the most typical kind of trash, a bomb. I modeled the bomb in Pro Builder and added a little particle system for the fuse. I used a lot of the same scripts on my recycling item for the bomb because it needed to be thrown and caught very similarly to the recycling. However, I needed to be able to differentiate between a bomb and a recycling item, so did a little bit of scripting and finally got that working so the player loses when they touch the bomb. However, our bomb currently just sits there like a broken birthday candle, so let's add more particles and make a little boom boom pow. What I came up with for my explosion definitely wasn't perfect, but I think it's good enough. At this point, I tried giving the recycling bin a lid using a rigid body and hinge joint, but the lid wasn't agreeing with the laws of physics because the love triangle dilemma is sort of coming back into play here, so I quickly scrapped that. Then I made the lives UI element spin and added a big shiny reflective boy into our scene so we have some real-time reflection. Lastly, I've been recently told that I need to cater more to my deaf gamer audience, so let's add some sound effects. I opened up my FL Studio where I threw together some quick sounds, 2 for when you collect and drop a piece of recycling, and then another for when you lose the game. In addition, I found a free car honking sound effect for when the cars pass you by, and also an explosion sound for the bomb that I found online. And that pretty much wraps it up for my final improvements in this mini devlog. The tweaks were pretty minor, but I think it definitely put the final touches on the game that I really wanted. Thanks for watching my second video on this channel. I really hope you liked it. If you did, be sure to like the video, and if you want to see more, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, be sure to join my new Discord server, because with almost 50 subs in the bag, our new community is basically the size of New York's population, so it needs a home. Click the link in the description to join. It should be a fun time. So I wasn't really planning to stretch this out into a series of devlogs since I only wanted to tweak a few more things. So I just wanted to make this little follow-up to document that. You can play the game on my itch.io page if you want. Link to that is in the description. It's called Recyclomania, and I'm going to be leaving the older version of the game up along with this new version, just in case you want to play what I originally made in 72 hours. I'm already planning some things for what's next, but give me some feedback in the comments and what you'd like to see. Feel free to suggest a challenge or a game idea in the comments, or if you have general feedback on the video, you can leave that in the comments as well. I still don't have a real schedule for my videos, but trust me, I'm working hard to put things together, even if it may seem quiet on my end. I'm gonna try and up my post frequency, but of course, I'd never sacrifice quality for that, so if I do end up taking a while to make a video, I hope it ends up being worth it. Lastly, once again, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I love you guys. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, night, whatever. See you in the next video.